options. I mean, you can either wait like 15 minutes and then.
I just didn't know if you wanted
Let's
to
wait.
send
And then
anything
pass the
about
sign-in
that
sheet and leave?
I did like when you in college.
I've seen some of them where it's like
Good evening, everyone. We will call this meeting of the Beaumont Economic Development Committee to order promptly at 4:18 p.m. At this time, I will ask Ms. Wheelwright to call the roll, please.
Mayor White,
Here.
Councilmember Lara,
Here.
City Manager Todd Parton, Economic Development Manager Warzinski,
Here.
Chairman Lawson,
Present.
Vice Chair Rader, Member Ahmed, Member Beneke, Member Brown,
Here.
Member Coblin, Member Moran, Member Vince, Student Segovia, and that is it.
Thank you so much, Ms. Wheelwright. At this time, are there any actions of any requests for excused absences?
I've received none.
Thank you. That said, I'm going to ask Dr. Brown, would you be so kind as to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, sir?
Absolutely. Place your right hand over your heart. Ready to begin?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you so much, Dr. Brown.
These chairs work if you pull them straight in and straight out.
Straight.
You'll be fine.
I thank you so much, Your Honor, because I have almost knocked over your walls here a couple of times.
You notice he's got the biggest area too. Just pointing that out.
Ms. Wheelwright, do we have any adjustments to the agenda? I know that we can't vote on anything, but do we have any adjustments that should be noted?
I have none.
All right, thank you. Are there any conflicts of interest disclosure that need to come before this body? All right, none, hearing none. Are there any public comments? Do we have any public comments that need to be?
I have no written comments. Heather, do we have anyone on the line?
All right, then at this time, as we we do not have a quorum, parent, we cannot vote on approval of the minutes. So we will table that item. If we get a number of members that come in, then we can go back. If not, we will have to table it until the next meeting. That said, at this time, we're going to ask for an update from our projects from our city staff. Mr. Warsinski, we'll defer to you, please.
Thank you, Committee Chair, members of the committee. So quick updates for you. One, and possibly one of the reasons that Rob might not be here is this is the regional ICSC week. This year, the regional one on the West Coast is being held in Monterey. So we're not in attendance physically there, but our city's consultant, the retail coach, is there. They provided a list of different groups that they're meeting with on our behalf. So we have a list of different businesses, brokers, and late last week we received some interest on a broker on some key development sites, and he had reached out to see if we could entertain discussions with two key developers that were going to be in attendance at ICSC. So I know that Austin and his group are meeting with them. I think the developer meetings were today. It was yesterday and today, so we're anxious to kind of see how that went. Also receive feedback on that conference to see if it was worthwhile on their side, and possibly work in that attendance next year for city staff as well, in addition to the annual conference, which is typically held in May in Vegas. So that's that. And then I did want to formally invite all of the Economic Development Committee members to the meeting that's being conducted by the downtown businesses that the city is helping out, and we'll be presenting the downtown vision that was presented to EDC. On behalf of the mayor, I wanted to invite you all, as well as the other businesses that we have been inviting personally. We also sent out emails and letters to them as well. So that will be on March the 24th. At 6 p.m. and the location is the Craft Lounge, which is on the corner of Beaumont Avenue and 7th, right behind City Hall over here on Beaumont Avenue. Currently, staff has reached out personally to over, I think, 100 different businesses within the downtown area. I've left messages and I'm waiting responses back for around 35 to 40 businesses, and we have currently about 35 that have said that they're going to attend. They may just being nice to me and don't want to tell me no. I've had a couple strong no's. And they thought they were going to offend me when they said no. I'm like, no, by all means, you don't have to come. I'm just inviting you. And I offered the ones that weren't able to attend. Like one of them just said, I'd love to be able to go, but I can't come. So I offered to sit down with that business and kind of go over the same PowerPoint presentation and kind of showcase the vision that the city and the city council have for the downtown area one-on-one with that business owner. So we'll see if they take me up on that one. But that really concludes my updates, at least for tonight. Thank you.
I'm sorry. Thank you, Mr. Warsinski. At this time, do we have any questions or comments for Mr. Warsinski or his team? Questions or comments from this body? Questions or comments from this body? Hearing none. Mr. Warsinski.
Yeah, one last thing, and thanks for Carrie for reminding me, but the Chamber of Commerce was nice enough to allow the city some space on their Good Morning Beaumont breakfast presentation for, I think it's April 8th. Did I get that right? Yeah. Sweet. So on April 8th, they have two keynote speakers. One's going to be Riverside County District Attorney's Office, and then I hope to be able to follow in their footsteps with a presentation on the downtown as well for Good Morning Beaumont at the Chamber.
Fantastic. Could you tell us, if you would, where that location is? So,
Betty, I'm going to leave this one up to you.
Sandtrap.
That's
You know
good.
where that's at? 892 Oak Valley Parkway?
Now, Ms. Rader, you know I'm a good Oklahoma boy. I can find food. I can smell it. So I'm fine if we can, if nothing else, we'll be there. I'd like to hear Mr. Warsinski present, so we want to be there to support you. All right. Thank you so much again, Mr. Warsinski. At this time, we'll move on to item 3, continue downtown business and landowners to promote business growth and development in the Central Business District. Do we have any report out on that area, Mr. Warsinski?
So we've been working on this a couple different ways. One is really showcasing the meeting on the 24th, in which we really hope to present to the local businesses in attendance and the landowners in attendance really what the downtown vision is, as well as receive feedback positively or negatively in suggestions on how to fine tune that thing. And then that way, that'll allow us really to focus our efforts on how to solve some of the problems, if there are problems, how to implement some of the things that they all like to see, that they're supportive of. And also, we've been internally discussing items related to the last EDC meeting, which we had 2 of our local business owners attend. They had provided honest feedback on some of their challenges, some of the things that they would like us to see, that they would like to see us do to entice businesses to the city, to make it possibly easier for ones to open, those types of things. So we've been internally discussing as staff kind of solutions or possibilities to address some of those. And I think once we get through the 24th meeting, if we do receive feedback at that meeting, then we'll definitely have a better place to go with it than we are right now. But I think we're pretty good in terms of what the vision is. Now we just need to make sure that the residents, as well as the businesses, are supportive of that vision before we start implementing such things. We do have Christina Taylor, the Community Development Director, here tonight to do a piggyback on some of the things that had come up at the last meeting in relation to parking within the downtown area. So I'm going to go ahead and kick it over to Christina and let her run through her quick presentation.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Happy to be here with you guys. Again, it's been a while. Let me pull up the presentation. Can you guys see it, or am I the only one looking at it?
They're gonna swap in just a second.
Oh, okay.
The suspense is killing me.
It's very exciting.
If it doesn't work electronically, can you act it out for us? Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Did I not? Will it not work like this, or- What does that mean?
That's Mr. Mark. He's there, we have one in the. No, that's Mr. Mark.
Sure. Okay. It worked like a champ last night.
Busy, yeah. We're running around.
Oh, okay.
A little bit.
I can stand up there to click through it. If you want, yeah.
You're fine, Miss Taylor. You take your time. We're good.
Parking?
And also, I will note that we will welcome Member Ahmed. He has joined us. I know we can see him up here. So welcome, Member Ahmed.
Thank you.
I tell you, thank goodness for Youthful Brilliance. If I'd been down there fumbling with that thing, we'd be here next week.
So we had planning commission in here last night and sat right there, plugged the same thumb drive in and worked like a champ, so. Anyway, all right, so back in 2021, we completed a parking management master plan with the assistance of SCAG. So staff had written a grant requesting SCAG look at all the parking throughout town, but with specific focus on the downtown. And so we were awarded the grant, and this is the result of the study that was done. So, okay, now, there we go. Okay, so this is the map of the downtown. This is an exhibit that you would see also in the city's general plan. And so it references some of the sub-areas that are part of the area plan. We have in green the Beaumont Avenue area, which would be from 8th Street north. Then we have the core of downtown in the dark blue, which is from 8th Street down to 5th Street. And then the extended 6th Street area, which goes further from like Palm further out to Highland Springs. And so they focused on this area, but also looked at some other areas in town. So the mobility element of the general plan for the downtown area plan has the idea that some of which was expressed by the business owners that were here at the previous meeting, with being able to walk, slow down traffic, park once, and visit the businesses, be able to shop, eat, dine outside, all of those things that are sort of portrayed in these general pictures that are included on the slide here. Another part of the downtown area vision is to also foster, civic engagement. So create areas that can be multi-use. Maybe it's a parking area one day, but maybe on a certain night it's a market night, or it's a place for food vendors to set up and people can come out, or anything like that. So as part of the study, we looked at parking areas, we talked to businesses and conducted outreach. We looked at the current parking requirements and then looked at some alternatives such as parking meter pricing and then came up with some recommendations. I will say parking meters were not something that's recommended here in the city of Beaumont, so I won't dive into that too much. Right. So the first thing we looked at is what's existing parking and how is it being utilized. And so these areas that you see in color on the map are areas that were studied. So the downtown area you see in sort of the purple and the green, and then in the pink down at the, what would be the east end of town, is the San Gorgonio Village area, so Walmart and all of those, Home Depot, the movie theater area, all of that. And then up on the top area, just Oak Valley Parkway, you see like the Stater Brothers Center and things like that. So it should be somewhat familiar for all of us living in town here. And so the study area, shockingly, we have about 10,500 spaces of parking here in Beaumont. Now, that's not all in downtown. That's just throughout all of the developments that are commercial, retail, and that's based on, you know, what's been required either of the current municipal code or the municipal code and the parking standards that were in existence at the time a project was approved. In the downtown sub area, so your Beaumont Avenue and 6th Street areas, there's about 2,500 parking spaces. Now, those aren't all on street. That's on street, off street, you know, with existing businesses, all of that. So the study also looked at land uses. I won't get too much into this, but if anybody's really interested in diving deep into what's existing in downtown right now as far as uses go, I can provide this information, and it may actually be on the planning website still. But just shows a breakdown of all of the uses and what their what the parking availability is. So we have some peak parking, and that was weekdays, early afternoon, like 2-ish, and it shows what the number of spaces were occupied in each core area. We never really got above that 28%, and that's at the marketplace at Beaumont, down south end of town. So granted, I will caveat that this kicked off during COVID, and so that did occur. I think if you studied Marketplace Beaumont now, with the theater being opened, San Gorgonio, all of that, you would see a much different, but since the focus of this really is downtown, I don't think there's been a tremendous amount of change in the dynamic in the downtown area where this information is still relatively applicable or relevant. Just some more information and data about the peak parking conditions in the downtown. Some parcel, despite a large number of available parking, it says some parcels may have inadequate parking on their sites, and I think that seems to be one of the biggest issues we hear from business owners is, you know, we have these buildings and these small lots, and I've got 2 parking spaces. How am I supposed to park? Where are my clients supposed to park? How are we supposed to serve our customers? So I will speak to current planning process right now is we don't disqualify a use in the downtown because they can't meet parking. We understand a lot is what it is, and you can't grow the lot. And so we just try and work with the businesses to make sure that they can meet all the other standards essentially, and then work with them on, you know, if you have on-street parking, fine. If you have off-street parking, fine. If you partner with a neighbor, fine. But we understand the need for businesses to be in the downtown, and not having enough parking is a function of having a very old downtown. So anyway, some of the outreach and engagement we did online, meeting flyers, we did some Zoom meetings. Honestly, there was not a huge amount of turnout on the feedback. A few of the comments are noted here. So And it tends to, again, focus on the fact that lots don't have enough parking on site for most of the businesses. So our current parking requirements were analyzed, and the parking ratios were looked at, basically the number of parking spaces required per use and how that's broken down. I'll focus on the commercial, not the residential. So both fast food and sit-down restaurants have the same base parking requirement. Religious institutions or public gathering places like cinemas have higher parking requirements. Daycare centers have parking requirements based on total enrollment of children. And so it somewhat explains why we ended up in the position we are in now with having a shortage of parking in some areas and not in others. So here's the breakdown of what our requirements are versus what are recommended based on the data in the study. And so for some of the commercial uses, there are an increase recommended. So like churches or the gathering places, instead of 1 per 3 seats, move it up to, or bring it down to 1 per 4 seats. For retail uses, instead of 1 space per 200, make it a quarter, like a 0.75 for 200. And this helps reduce the parking burden and provides for more space utilization of the site itself. And again, I can provide this, and trying to be respectful of the time here as well. So there's some,
Christina?
yeah.
Sorry, I don't want to interrupt, but can you go back
Yeah.
one slide? So on the bar and nightclub one, as well as like, let's say, restaurants sit down. So the current requirements laid out there. And then they have the recommendation column, but it's blank.
Yeah.
Can you explain what we'd be doing, at least in what this thing's recommending for that?
So I think that has just been left up to, depending on what we do in the downtown.
Sure.
So we have some flexibility. It's not a burdensome where we would need to necessarily increase it or decrease it, but depending on the location or hours of operation and things like that, there's some flexibility with what we could do in those cases, meaning no recommendation was provided, and it could be what we would like it to be.
Perfect, because I think those are the ones that, man, this thing's giving me feedback. But those are really the ones that I think would help anchor a downtown revitalization project, is getting some nice restaurants, getting, I don't know about a nightclub, but a bar or something like that that serves mixed drinks or alcohol with food. Those types of things are typically what you see a lot of people want to come to. And right now, a lot of just knowing a lot of the building spaces within the downtown area, and I know you know this, there's no way there's going to be 1 space per 75 square feet on any of the properties throughout the entire downtown area right now.
And I think planning staff is going to be attending the March 24th meeting as well. And I think it's important at that time to really, at least for us, to hear what would really help the downtown businesses with their parking. Do we need more? Do we need communal parking? Do we need no standards? I mear Redlands is an example of a thriving downtown that has absolutely no parking standards. They just have waived all parking. So, there are a number of ways we could go, but it really is going to be driven by what will best suit the businesses in I guess, as we move forward with the downtown vision and getting that implemented, what is going to help them, thrive the best. So the good thing is we have a lot of data in this report that we can use for flexibility. And a municipal code is a code, and it can be changed. And that's, recommendations either from your body or planning commission or the downtown that would go through city council. And we have an option to fix things that are no longer working. So it's not something that's absolutely set in stone. We can justify changes, and those changes can be made to help accomplish the city's current vision. So that is the good thing about having this study and also about having these meetings with the downtown businesses so that we can really gather what's going to work, what's going to help our vision be achieved. So parking in lieu fee, this was recommended, but I think it's something that would be maybe down the line or, definitely a high-level discussion because it is a fee that would have to be implemented. But essentially, a parking in lieu fee says every development that comes into town pays X amount of dollars. That money goes into a pot, and it's used to create a parking area, whether it's a parking structure or a parking lot or something like that, that would serve then the area, where it's located. So it is an option that we have. We have some implementation information on how we could go about doing this. But again, it's, carefully considered as it would be a fee that would have to be, implemented somehow on development. Shared parking recommendation, which is commonly used now in planning, basically so facilities can use the same parking areas as other facilities. So, if there's one parking lot and there's 3 businesses that are around there, everybody can use the same pot of parking, and we don't then require the same amount of parking for each business. So instead of 12 spaces for each business, if you have 12 spaces and all 3 businesses share, that's a shared parking. So, and typically that works out. There are always cases where maybe you have 2 high volume businesses that, maybe use up all the parking. But a good example of that is up on Beaumont Avenue, and I'm not even sure if they're still operating, but we have like the karate studio or the dance studio in a center with other businesses. Well, a lot of those businesses operate 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, but a lot of the karate or dance classes are in the evenings. And so when their traffic is gone in the day, the dance and karate folks come in at night, and it's a good example of use of sharing parking, and it's a compatible situation. So here's, a whole bunch more information on how to set up shared parking, a number of, again, recommendations or options that the city would have if we wanted to set up a formal shared parking program. I'm going to skip over parking meter pricing because, again, that was ultimately not ended up being a recommendation for the city of Beaumont. And we'll go on to the general recommendations. So they're listed here. So striping on-street parking stalls in downtown, and part of the downtown area plan, which I'm not sure how recently you guys have seen the map, but out in front of City Hall in that area, there's actually a couple diagrams that show a big median area with parking that could be, driven into, so you don't necessarily have people backing out into traffic. You can come in either way on a diagonal. And then that, because it's not a raised parking area with curbs or curb stops, can also be used as a functional area for other things like market nights or food vendor events or things like that. And so that's one thing that we could do, along with additional, curbside parking or anything like that in the downtown area. We do have a city parking lot adjacent to the police station, and so that is one of the pools of publicly available parking. Having a parking structure or something additional to that would be also helpful, once the downtown is really, humming with businesses. Lower the parking requirements, which again reduces the burden on businesses. And then, creating different kinds of funds or doing a formal shared parking policy. All of those things are recommendations that staff has available to work with for addressing parking in the downtown, but also citywide if needed. And then they also, our consultants also provided some mid-range and then long-term recommendations, which are there. Lots of different discussions. A lot of this is definitely geared more towards a more urban environment where you would need, say, residential parking permits or things like that for people who live in a downtown area. I don't know that that would ever necessarily be applicable in a city like ours. Even as much as we've grown, I think we're still not at that point yet. Some information on wayfinding signs and just, directing people to parking and things like that. are also very beneficial. And I think that is the end of my presentation.
I have one question,
Yes, sir.
and I know this is like forward thinking and would be like a perfect problem to have, but I was thinking on the parking in lieu fee program. Are you familiar with the different cities that have the apps that will
Yes.
literally show you where an open parking spot is within a downtown area? I mean, obviously, there's a lot that goes into that, right? You have to have sensors, camera sensors that report back, probably using 5G towers to your server, which then emits that through your app. But I was thinking that might be something you could convince the downtown businesses to support. If they were all paying into a program that helped show where their customers could park, it might not be right in front of their business, but there could be one that just opened 3 over. And if you're on there, and I've done it before in certain metro areas, you try to get to that one as fast as possible.
Yeah, you're right. In theory, it would be great to have something like that. I'm not sure what the initial infrastructure layout for something like that would be as far as cost goes and technology. But there are a number of cities that use that or partner with different app-based parking where you can park and pay and all that. But it's typically in tourist areas or in your more very urban, like core cities where you have people coming and going and there's a lot of activity or a very shortage of parking. So, you know, I think for us right now, reducing parking standards, waiving parking standards, parking sharing, and then maybe at some point the, you know, a parking in lieu fee if we have a vision of building something large scale that would need to be funded somehow. Those are probably the best options that would fit with our city, you know, and how we are now.
Ms. Taylor, help me understand, because this is it's a bit of a foreign language. The parking in lieu fee, is this something that businesses pay? Or is it something that the citizen pays?
So it would generally be something that businesses would pay. So it becomes essentially like a fee associated with development.
Gotcha.
So whether you come into Occupy, and again, it would depend on how it's set up. It could be set up a number of ways, but it would be, you know, if you come into Occupy an existing structure, there might be a fee associated with that goes towards a parking, you know, program or a parking structure. If you're gonna build something new, there may be something that goes along with that. And it can be either you pay the fee and meet your parking requirement. It could be you pay the fee, but you get a reduction of your required parking because you're paying into the program. Or it could be you pay the fee or you build parking. You know, there are a number of ways it could be set up. And again, that becomes a policy decision, you know, if the city chooses to go down that road. But it wouldn't be attached to like every individual resident home as a tax per se like that. That's not the intent.
And I'm imagining that it's probably on a sliding fee based on the size of the business?
It depends. We have latitude to set it up. It could be a flat fee. It could be based on square footage of a structure.
Got it.
Could be based on what your required parking is versus what you want to provide. It's sort of an open field to set it up what works best for us.
Okay, thank you.
So I have a question for you. Are you expecting to have at least a 5-minute or a small part of discussion on the parking on the 24th?
I was not expecting to participate at all. I was expecting to come and just listen to what everybody had to say. I'm happy to participate at whatever level anybody would like us to. Planning Manager Carol Kendrick and I will both be in attendance.
Yeah, I don't want it to get into a long, you know, make the presentation much longer, but I thought what might work is a little bit of a teaser.
Okay.
And then let them know that if we can put it on the agenda for the following, because I think this kind of stuff is important, because you're gonna get them, they're gonna believe, or finally believe that we're serious about making some changes down there.
Okay.
And I think if you just brought it up, maybe a slide or two,
Okay.
but say we don't wanna go into it too much, but we are going to talk about it at our next Economic Development Committee meeting.
I can pare this down into something pretty succinct and get it I don't know
Yeah,
who's in charge, but whoever needs the slides and then,
Kyle's doing the
okay,
presentation.
If
okay,
you throw it to me and then I'll kick it over to you during the meeting,
sounds good.
we'll work out who presents
Okay.
it.
But again,
yeah.
I think
Yeah.
no more than, 5 minutes if possible.
Perfect.
Just
Yep.
to sort of tease them and say, we understand and we want to talk about this and we're going to be talking about it here.
Okay,
And then the Economic Development Committee could then
Mm-hmm.
be presented as we are going to bring it to council
okay.
to look at some serious.
And so from the feedback there, I can get some information together on whatever items that are EDC wants to send to council and just make sure it's packaged up with the information, whether it's reduction of parking or the in lieu or any of those things, we can compile it and make sure that it's available for the commission and then for council at the right time.
Yeah, and I'm also thinking, Kyle, if you're doing follow-up, either emails or phone calls, mention that we are going to talk a little bit about parking. I don't know if that's already in the information going out to business owners.
It's not currently. It was just the downtown vision presentation that we had. I think adding the parking to it is going to get better response.
Yeah,
We're going to get honest response. They may say waive all parking. They may say we love the reduction, but we don't want to pay a fee. They may all say we will and pay a fee as long as we don't have to put in any parking ever again.
Well, I think
You don't really know, but I think it'll help us get an understanding if we can get that direct feedback at the meeting.
Yeah, and I think you give a short presentation on that, and then when you get to the end of the presentation, you have basically question and answer, just open discussion, and that's where I think we'll find that parking is a quick fix, right? I mean,
It's
something-
actually quite easy, and Kyle and I were talking about this earlier. I'm like, nothing like this is unfixable. We have all the tools and information available to make whatever changes will work for our community. So, and that speaks to a lot of different components in the code, whether it's landscaping like we just saw recently at council, or whether it's parking, or whether it's, any zoning issues, design standards, any of those things. We have the latitude to make the changes. It's our document, and we can,
So let's assume that you have the parking area right in front of the dance studio and the pizza place there.
Yes.
That really is, Betty could probably attest to this, unworkable. The way the
Or
parking.
how you go in and out.
Right.
Yeah,
Yes.
and you go in this way, and
Yep.
you're meeting someone coming this way. So if you were to come up with a plan that improved upon that, that would be something the property owner would then be involved with, and I mean, the city can't come in and say, we'll fix it for you, that type of thing, right?
yeah, so typically we could, if we made changes, and even in that case, I mean, I think, and I know exactly what you're talking about in there, and, because there is somewhat of a safety issue, I think we could approach it from that standpoint even, but of course, not wanting to be heavy-handed and burdensome, we could provide them options on how they could address it. And since we don't have any assistance programs necessarily in the downtown right now, we wouldn't be able to go in and help them, or the city wouldn't take that on as its private property, but we could work with them in some other capacity to help them address the circulation issues on their site.
The last thing you want to do is take away a space or two, but maybe there's a way to redesign it that you add a space or two.
Sure.
I don't know.
Exactly, and
Yeah.
I think maybe one of the reasons they've not looked at optimizing the parking lot is because of the fear of losing 3 spaces, right? And then under the current code, they're like, well, if I lose 3 spaces, I can't put in a new business and a vacant suite when it opens. But if there's lesser parking requirements, and maybe the street is slowed down and parallel parking's provided on the street,
Right.
maybe they're willing to lose 5 or 6 spots as long as they know that the shopping center can still operate as is, but it functions better and it functions safer. But I know
Right.
that some of the owners are like, I don't want to touch anything because I don't want the city to mess around with it the second I touch anything.
Yeah.
So as long as we reinforce that, and if
But I never know which way to go in that parking lot.
you have to be, and driving a truck, you have to be lucky someone's not coming the other
Yeah,
direction.
it's like
Right.
you have to roll the dice and hope that you're going in the right way, and then
Yes.
someone has to back up to get, So anyways.
I know you had
You were
mentioned.
there during dance studio time.
I know you had mentioned the parking lot that we have as a city that's, that might be able to accommodate a structure. And so is that something that's off in the future? And I can imagine, maybe just my imagination, but I can imagine, especially after we move forward with developing, our downtown, that we're gonna get a lot of guests from outside the city. I know I would. I
Hopefully,
mean, you know,
yeah.
I mean, wonderful, wanting to spend time at our restaurants, wanting to spend time walking downtown, because it'll be that nice. And so will we be able to accommodate that kind of traffic? Because I can imagine people will come in. It's a small town feel. It's beautiful.
It is.
And to be able to walk, you know,
So I'm not privy to anything specifically on the books. Parking structure is part of what had been discussed in the parking management plan as an option. I use that as an example because the city owns the property, and so it's something that we would have control of in order to do something like that. From a technical standpoint, I'm not sure, what could be accommodated on that site or what the long-term, plans are for something there, but it's an example of something that could be addressed in downtown somewhere. It's just a matter of, like anything else, time and money, right? Do we have the
Absolutely.
lot? Do we, have the funds to build something? Could we acquire it and build it? Anything like that. But it would be something that would be a viable opportunity or a viable option for parking in our downtown area.
absolutely.
And
Thank you.
once we have the new police station
Yeah.
in place, which is years, it's not around the corner,
Right.
but then we have a whole lot of other options across the street. There's another, at the end of, is it the end of Seventh Street? There's a sort of parking lot that's by the school over there. Is that city-owned parking lot?
Oof, I don't know offhand.
No, I believe that's owned by the church.
Okay, you know what I'm talking about.
Across Beaumont Avenue on
By
7th.
Palm Elementary down there.
No, I'm saying if you're at the Craft Lounge and you walk down the street to the Craft Lounge this way, and you walk
Oh,
and
the
you
one
get
by, yes, that is our parking lot.
Okay.
that's 25, 30 space, at least spaces.
Yeah, and I'm sure people use it
They do,
all the
Yeah.
time.
they do, yeah,
Right.
And why not?
yeah. It could use a little more, pedestrian walkways across that street to make it, to bring it out, so people realize, hey, it's right there, it's not that far of a walk, but.
Yeah.
Some of the other things I've seen within some of the more modern downtown areas is the invention of creating rideshare drop-off locations.
Right.
So you have to know if you're going to like a robust area that's a little bit light on parking, do I really want to get in my car, or do I just want to pay an Uber driver $10 to get me there?
Absolutely.
Drop me off right in front of the business I'm going to. I can walk around all night and then call them back, and it's $10 to get home.
Yeah.
Very
That's-
possible that could work, and then that alleviates need
Yeah.
for parking spaces as
And
well.
that has become popular with movie theaters. So a lot of the movie theaters you
And
see-
Vegas.
Yeah, well, that too. You see the drop-off locations.
That's what I do.
Right?
Yeah, park and
Now we
drive.
know where you're traveling all
Park and
day.
ride. I tell you, park and ride. And you know, I know a lot of people probably don't want fees, but I'm not opposed to paying fees to park in a safe environment and also to maintain, quality parking, in our area. I think that's important to have that conversation. Nothing is free.
Right,
And if you want something nice, you got to pay for it.
right. And being in the development world here and on the city end, we are as staff sensitive to the fees that people pay because we understand it costs a lot to develop now, not just because of city fees, but all of the things that are required by the different state agencies and other districts that provide services, to the businesses in the city. So it really becomes a balancing act of what are we asking and what are you going to get in return, whether it's a short-term or long-term, return. Is it going to be worth it, or is it going to have the opposite effect? We don't want to deter businesses, from coming because that's, defeating the purpose. So,
Well, like I said, as a driver, I don't have a problem putting a couple bucks in the till to help out. I don't. All right, thank you so much, Ms.
Thank you
Taylor.
all.
Are there any other questions for Ms. Taylor at this time? Additional questions for Ms. Taylor? Hearing none, thank you so much, Ms. Taylor. We'll move on to discussion of committee member positions. Mr. Warsinski, I'll defer to you on this.
Thank you. So as you can see, there's a couple vacancies on the committee as it sits today. So staff has advertised the community non-business member position, so that's open and available for people to apply. We also have the alternate member seats, and then I wanted to bring up a discussion point from dating way back to when the Economic Development Committee was first formed, and Nicole was nice enough to provide where is it? On page 7 of the agenda, the policies and procedures that formed the committee. So you can see all the different positions, right? And there's always been this rotating member for an industry expert. And previously, the Economic Development Committee was kind of getting established. The members were understanding the city processes, going through the general plan, the zoning ordinance, and so forth, and hearing a lot about how the member agencies are functioning. But it dawned on me the other day that we have this rotating position for an industry expert, and the committee has been given directive from the council to really work on downtown revitalization this year, at least for this year. So maybe it's the time that we can seek an applicant to fill that rotating expert position. So I wanted to pitch that idea to the committee to see if that's something you might be interested in seeing. I honestly don't know if we have that person that's willing to put in the work and the time for free, but it wouldn't hurt to see if we have someone like that specializes in that venue, that may have done it before or worked for a consultant or was an ex-city manager or an ex-public works director that happened to retire within this area. Maybe we could get someone that's worked on it before that can really be impactful to the committee. So I wanted to throw that out there and see if the committee was
I think that would be a
supportive
great
of that idea.
I think that would be a great idea. My 2 cents, that's it, but
Yeah. Sure.
I agree. I agree.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and work with, Nicole, did we decide if we need to take an action on that from the board today and then bring that to city council to formally go out for it to seek applications, or?
I think we're still
we
below
decide the
quorum, so we
committee
wouldn't
could-
be able to vote on it. I think we could just we could table it until the next meeting.
But it's in section 2. Why have we not done this before?
We never really had a topic to have an expert or have a rotating member. So we always envisioned it, at least when we created it, was that we would be working on something that we would try to bring in an expert on that, but they wouldn't need to be here for the next 10 years. But once we accomplished that mission, then we would rotate it to whatever else the committee was working on at that time.
So it's my opinion that you already have council approval on that position. So I don't know that you need a vote from us.
Yeah.
So just go for it and see what we got.
I would.
Okay.
Yeah, because it is stated in section 2 very clearly at the end.
Yeah, and eventually that person for that position would be approved by council anyways, but you already have the approval for the position.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Excellent. And then
Can I just say, so the only time that I ever bring to council is just to get approval of notice, to put it out there. It's kind of already been approved. But if we do bring it to council, it is another platform, to just get eyes, on it. So that would be my only other suggestion, is to bring it to council just so it's one
No,
more
I'm in-
platform.
Yeah, I'm in favor of that. I just
Okay.
don't want to hold back at this point. I think, because like you said, you have to put out a new announcement, and council meetings, 5 days away?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the only other item I had was to discuss the student member. So we've had, I think it's 2 students that have fulfilled the role of that member, and I think they've been very, very good for the time being in terms of their participation. But COVID kind of killed the participation in terms of that role this last year, and I don't know if the prior student member graduated or if they're working remotely, and none of that's really any of my business anyway, right? So it's really up to the school district to appoint someone, and then to recommend that to city council. But I was wondering if that's something we want to move forward on and finding a new student, if Dr. Brown would be willing to do that, or if maybe the committee can look at that position and possibly repurpose that member seat to a different organization for a different role.
You know, this is just my opinion, and I certainly do not mean to speak for Dr. Brown. I've always been student-centered. That said, I think it is so imperative that our young people have a clear understanding of state, local, municipal government at all kinds. And I'm a poli-sci major, and my graduate work is in political science. And it is always, I think, important that we at least try to expose young people to what it is, the operations of city and state and local government. I understand exactly what you're saying. We probably could find someone else, but I hope as we've come out of, I'm claiming we've come out of COVID. I'm just claiming it because I'm happy. And I've gotten happier with every time the greener the map gets. But hopefully, Dr. Brown has some brilliant young people over there. We've had two that have served and have done a remarkable job, and hopefully we can bring another one or a couple to this body so that they can begin to share the importance of public service. And I that's just my 2 cents. I'm student-centered, and I think our young people should be involved.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I think it just depends on what direction we want to go. Like, do we want to look for maybe an MSJC student who's attending maybe the PASS campus, or do we want the perspective of a teenager, 16,
Either
17
way.
years old? So we can certainly find someone. That our student member did graduate, and during COVID was actually was working, and wasn't able to attend many of the meetings. So, depending on the direction of where the committee wants to go, I can certainly 100% find young, brilliant minds that we have all over the city of Beaumont. And there's a lot of them, and we have students that would be very interested in serving. So.
I agree, and I think being open to whether it's a high school student or a community college or someone who's doing, both, they're working their way through that, then we would have to adjust this to change it from Beaumont High School. But I think if we get rid of that position, that'll be a year or two, and some student's going to come and say, why don't you have a student on the board? I think that's one reason why we've added it, is because there was interest for it. So, yeah, I'd like to see if we can find someone who wants to do it.
Anyone else? I think that's good. I mean, currently how it sits today, it says Beaumont Unified School District student, so I think unless we want to modify it and go for both, but then I'm just trying to think in advance. I'd hate to have both of your organizations present two great individuals and have the city council have to pick between those two.
Yes.
Like I said, we might get lucky and get a student that's a dual enrollment or concurrent enrollment, and we'll
That would
kill two
work,
birds.
that would work perfect.
Yeah,
I
we'll
just
kill
don't want to
two birds
have,
with one stone.
Yeah.
So
I'm
we'll
just
be
thinking
fine.
with that program that
Yeah,
Beaumont
Right.
has.
yeah, we have
And-
plenty, and we're gonna have the middle college. So
Right,
right. Right.
absolutely, find a couple of students there.
And just so the committee knows, the process we used, I think, gosh, it was a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, was we invited students to come. And so we had, I think we had about a dozen students that were interested. And then we went through an interview process and selected one student. So we have students that are definitely interested. And we can consider dual enrollment, middle college, as part of that criteria. But yeah, if the committee's fine with it, I will move forward in finding another student board member.
All right.
And that
Might
was a
have
really
real interesting parking discussion coming up.
and that was such an incredible exercise to see those young people come and present to this group. And you had some stars there. I mean, they really stood out. All of them were great. And those are future leaders, and we should be preparing them, getting them ready. Absolutely. So yeah. All right, I've talked enough. I'm so sorry, but yeah, that's exciting. Anytime young people are stepping up, that is an exciting thing.
I agree.
Very much so.
And we've got wonderful students, amazing
do.
students.
Really do. All right, are there any other discussions with regard to committee member positions?
Chairman, I did see a hand raised by Member Ahmed earlier. I don't know if he's still wanting to speak.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Member Ahmed, please, sir.
No, I was just gonna call.
We can't hear you, sir.
You can't hear me?
Oh, we cannot. You're coming through very muted. We can barely hear you.
I'm gonna
There
pass
you
up,
are.
then I don't know what happened with the
Perfect,
mic.
yeah.
It should be working, but thank you.
Go right ahead, sir.
No, if it's not coming through, if you can't hear.
I can hear you now.
Oh, okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. What I was gonna suggest is, because we have the junior college and the high school, we can actually alternate. I see the benefit of having junior college students participate in this. This could be the link to the industry and to the profession that they want to choose.
Well, I'm not in disagreement with you at all. I think the concern is, and it's been brought out by our elected officials here, it's a part of the statute that it is a Beaumont Unified School. So that would have to be something that would have to be changed, and that won't happen with us just saying it. It's something that would be an action that would have to be brought before council. So I'm not in disagreement. Hey, I support community college students, but certainly we want to follow the statute and then have that discussion moving forward. And I'm certain that can come up for discussion. But yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Yeah, you've hired some of our great community college students, so we appreciate it. Absolutely. All right, no discussion further on member positions. Hearing none, then we will move on to topics for future agendas. We have two topics that could possibly come before this body moving forward. That is Intro to New Businesses program, and Intro to New Businesses program. Is that an actual activity or training or some type?
It would be a program that the city would, or at least that would be discussing in terms of how to provide introductions or how to showcase new businesses that would be entering into the city. So it's something that's been on there for a while. I know that at the last meeting, the mayor had requested both of these to be moved to a future agenda. So I know we're working on doing that. Just, we didn't have time on this agenda to put either of those. And I think the second one, in terms of the Workforce Development Apprenticeship Program, the city's gonna be reaching out to Beaumont Unified and really getting a good presentation or understanding of how their apprenticeship program that they've established within the last year or two is working, and really get an update on that. So that'll be one that we may bring in both Beaumont Unified and maybe Riverside County Workforce to to do a presentation on those.
We'd be happy to jump on that bandwagon as well in the future after Beaumont Unified School District shows. We have a wonderful apprenticeship program that we're developing. We have a really great director in Director Oxford. The only problem is now, if we invite Director Oxford, we're going to have to make some time for him, because he's the kind of fellow, if you ask him what time it is, he's going to tell you how they made that clock. And so he tends to be a little long-winded, but he's a nice fella. He's just going to tell you the whole story. But yeah, I support apprenticeships 100%. Getting experience while you're earning and learning, that's important. So yeah, absolutely. So we have those two that will move forward. I'm hearing Mr. Warsinski indicate that as they're doing more research, we'll move those up on the agenda. All right. Are there any other areas that are not listed here that we should be moving into discussion for future agendas? Yes, sir, Mr. Laura.
Yeah, I attended a WRCOG meeting this afternoon. They offer what's called a C-PACE program. It's a program for commercial businesses that can get financing and defer or put it to their tax bills for commercial properties specifically. I guess it's gaining a lot of ground and a lot of interest, especially here in California and throughout the United States. But I was thinking it might be an idea that we could have somebody come here and explain how that program works for, Kyle had indicated that, you know, once we get this on tape, we can refer businesses to it, and it could be an option, because they do, either brand-new buildings or they do retrofits to existing buildings, but you can get financing for those improvements. So I thought that might be, if we're interested in doing that, I could contact WRCOG to see if I can't set that up.
You know, that brings up a question. Have we done that much as far as bring a presentation here that benefits the businesses and then we put that out on the website and promoted it? Because
No.
I think
We
that's.
really
I think we
showcase a lot of our internal stuff. We've
Yeah.
had outside agencies participate before, but never really on a specific program. A lot of times it's just been like holistically, this is what this agency does and how it impacts businesses here. But no one's really showcased a certain program or an incentive package.
Well, I think it'd be great to have that our discussion as part of that presentation that is then shared with the on our website, and then we can point. So I thought that.
And then if a business calls, I can tell them, look, if you want to know more about this program,
Right.
just key into the X month
Yeah.
EDC meeting, and they can get a feel of it and also see the discussion that occurs.
Well, that and I don't know, do we have that discussion that Retail Coach did available?
Those are on there, yes.
Because that would be something we could have, you know, something for businesses and have those videos there.
I would think that'd be great. Yeah.
Okay. I will look into that and report back on that.
And I think you should add the high school versus middle school student issue to a future agenda item.
The high school, you mean high school versus,
The discussion about our student
community
member.
college? Or
Yeah,
middle school?
yeah, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
you meant middle high school,
I
yeah.
was going the wrong. You said middle college. I'm thinking
Middle
middle
college,
school.
yeah. Well, yeah, that's
Yeah,
a, that's a
let's
partnership
keep
Going the wrong
that, yeah.
way,
Let's
Mayor.
keep the middle school students out.
Yeah, we want middle school students as well. They need to learn about government, man. They
Gotta
need
get
to
'em
learn
early.
about government. They really, I agree, absolutely. All right, let's see, we're moving from topics, for future agendas over to reports. Do we have any reports from members that are present? Any reports from members? Ms. Rader, absolutely.
I got rainbows and unicorns over here. The chamber, in the chamber parking lot, we will have blood drives on April 6th and on May 4th. They're also having quite a few blood drives throughout the community with critical need for blood. Right now, it seems like there's always a critical need for blood.
Miss Rader, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt
sorry.
your microphone.
There we go. Okay. Did anybody hear anything? Okay. We have blood drives coming up on April 6th and May 4th in the parking lot at the chamber offices. A critical need for blood right now. There's still room to attend this Friday's Good Morning Beaumont breakfast. Clark Batha, a pharmacist at Loma Linda University Health, will be speaking. So you can bring your drug questions and ask him about those. That's always fun. And then on Friday, April 8th, as we already discussed, Hunter Taylor will be speaking from the Riverside County Deputy. He's a Deputy District Attorney, and along with Mr. Kyle Rosinski on his report on the city of Beaumont. We have 2 mixers coming up. They're into the future, but if you could mark your calendars, on May 18th, Wine Rhythm and Brews mixer at the Noble Creek Franco Gardens. That's a community-wide chamber mixer, so we've got actually 6 chambers are going together. This happened last year. It was the first one. It was a lot of fun. We didn't really know what was happening because it was the first time we did it. It was a lot of fun. So this year, since we kind of know what we're doing, it should be a lot more fun. And it's close. We're the close chamber. And then we also have a chamber mixer coming up on June 16th. It's going to be again up at Kyra Bucest Ranch, and it's going to have a theme. It's going to be a speakeasy. So that's fun. You younger people don't know what a speakeasy is, but you'll find out. And we have some special entertainment that we're lining up for it. So we'd like all of you to be there on June 16th. Thank
On
you.
those 2, what time do they start?
5 to 8 p.m.
Both of them?
Yes.
Okay, and the second one was at what? June what?
Bucrest Ranch,
June what though? I didn't.
June 16th.
Perfect. Thank you.
Do we purchase tickets for those?
Not for the Wine Rhythm and Brews.
Okay.
And the one at Bucrest Ranch, that's still up in the air. Usually a mixer is not a chargeable
Oh, got it.
situation.
Okay.
But the one at Bucrest Ranch, because we're gonna have live entertainment,
Maybe.
maybe not.
Okay. Thank you.
You'll accept donations.
Well, yeah, if, you know, we have this optimistic feeling that it's gonna be so popular that we're gonna have to control the crowd. But
Thank you so much, Member Rader. Any other additional reports?
I have just a short report.
Yes, sir, Dr. Tom.
As it relates to the Economic Development Committee. As you heard from our chairman here, that we are establishing a middle college with MSJC, which is a partnership that's taken 4 years to develop together. And so what that entails is we'll have students who are Beaumont Unified Schools students who are attending the Banning Pass campus. There'll be 11th and, well, the first year will be 10th and 11th graders who will attend that campus and earn college credits while they're pursuing their high school diploma. And so it's a really neat, very unique partnership, and that's just a testament to MSJC and the great folks there and the partnership with Beaumont Unified School District. So just something very unique, having kids go and actually attend on a college campus is going to be exciting for us. So the other part that I wanted to mention, again, as it relates to the Economic Development Committee, is we recently were awarded $1.5 million in grant funds to establish a construction pathway at the high school. And so we're building that right now, and then about $500,000 of that was to continue our career readiness coordinator, who is establishing internships all across the city, including here in City Hall. And so I think we're up to about 20 different affiliation agreements where students are out working in local businesses, and most are on paid internships, but unpaid as well. So our kids are out; they're experiencing the workforce and gaining some skills in that way. The last thing is we just had our official second interim budget report last night, and without going into the laborious details of a school district budget, one thing that we do track is enrollment, and I think a good indicator of city growth and where people are coming in and moving in is school district growth. And so we are up this year at a rate of we're at over a 5% increase in student enrollment. And what that translates to is about 580 new students. And so it doesn't sound like a lot, but when you think of an elementary school, it's almost an elementary school, pretty close. And so that growth we're seeing is really a lot larger than typical. Normally, we're right around 2.5–3%, but we saw 5% growth this year. So plugging along, we have the expansion project at the high school to accommodate that growth. We just got done building Summerwind Trails, so that's open for its first year for that growth. But we are also looking at where are we going to build the next school. So those things are all in planning stages on the east and west side of town. So that's a little bit of an update for Beaumont Unified School District.
Fantastic. Congratulations on bringing money, that construction money. It'll be great. Imagine some of those students, those trained students in carpentry and those construction skills coming to work on the future downtown here. That would be remarkable. Keep those tax dollars here, man. Absolutely. All right. Any other reports that we have from the committee? Additional reports? Additional reports. Hearing none. At this time, we're going to move for adjournment. We don't have to vote. So since we do not have to vote, I am going to gavel us out at 5:26. Thank you all so much. Everyone stay safe. You look great without your mask. I'm telling you, you absolutely do. All right. I don't, but Miss Carey's over here saying, put yours back on.